Hey guys, welcome back and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first official episode as the Conditioning to Consciousness podcast. Obviously the same super cool music, same honest reflections and conversations, just a better name and a pretty sun on the cover now. But okay, in all honesty, this shift really, I feel like it just offers me a lot of clarity on my own path, structure for building out future episodes. And I think it's also just going to be really helpful for people to know what they're getting as they tune in, that this is really it's a space where we go through it and not around it, where we stop bypassing the hard stuff because that's what got us here in the first place, into this collective global mess that we find ourselves in. And for being honest, I'm recording from the US. So if you're listening from here, I'm guessing you're feeling it right now. Not to mention on the heels of just the chaos of the holidays. So that brings me to my topic today. So it's like a weather report of sorts. We are, today we're tuning into the emotional weather of January, which is still wintering, or it could be low energy, high integration. Coming off the heels of the holidays, I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. My kids just went back to school and I really enjoyed the time together. I enjoyed slow mornings and, not having to be anywhere and just getting to spend that time, getting to know them in ways that I feel like you don't when you're, they're constantly changing and they go to school every day, and on weekends it's busy. We have sports and activities and birthday parties. And so, it's nice to slow down into a slower routine in that way, but it's also just chaos. It's wild. It's wild that right after the winter solstice, right after, it's the rebirth of the sun, but it marks this period of rest and renewal and reflection and release. It's right after that we move into I don't know what, the most chaotic time of the year, where we're buying constantly, magic making plans to see all of the people, cooking all of the meals, baking cookies, just doing all of the things. But it is, it's really supposed to be that season of rest and renewal. So it's no wonder now that we feel extra exhausted. And I mean, I don't want to say that it's not a bad exhaustion. It's just it's finding balance between what it is that's really important to us during this season, making space for that and letting go of everything else. There's just all of this pressure around the holidays to participate in all of the themed weeks at school. The kids need a Grinch costume one day and there's a cookie exchange the next day. And, we have to get all of the gifts, right? The gifts for everyone. It's not just, it's no longer just about who you want to give gifts to. There is a level of expectation, I think, that a lot of people buy into, myself included. There's times where I'm am I getting this gift because I feel like I'm supposed to, or because I really want to? And it's just this constant inner conflict. And it's sending Christmas cards, Santa visits, the elf. Did we decorate enough? Were we festive enough this season? Have we seen Santa enough? Have we bought enough gifts? Is the gift giving even across different parties? What did I get so-and-so last year? And what should I get them this year? Did I get them the same thing? Did I get them enough? It's just and then New Year's is coming. New Year's is coming. Did we plan for that? Because Christmas came and we're finally exhaling and we're in that weird in between. But now it's New Year's and there's this expectation that it's fresh start. The calendar is changing. We need to do something to mark that passing of time. But why? It's why? I think it is wild to me that we go into this period of like extreme busyness right after the winter solstice. But then on top of that, there's like all of this pressure in January for like a fresh start. You know, we've been taught that January is for New Year's resolutions and goal setting, productivity, self-discipline. What are you committing to doing every day? And what are you going to deprive yourself of, right? Like, what are the bad habits that you're going to interrupt? But like, it's just harsh, right? We're not designing any of this to like support what like our natural energetic and biological like clocks and cycles. Biologically, energetically, and emotionally right now, we are still wintering. January's not a clean slate. It's not a time for building. It is not a time for momentum. It's not a time for rigid goal setting and New Year's resolutions. January is a softer time. It's a period of reflection, deep rest, and renewal so that, you know, as the energy increases, as we get closer to spring, we can start to build again. The Gregorian calendar, so like the 12-month calendar that we operate off of, it's literally like just a made-up calendar. It's an arbitrary date, an administrative tool. It is not a reflection of any of the biological rhythms or energetic rhythms that we're like naturally attuned to. So like if you tune into the solar calendar, as we talked about last month, a new cycle just began in December with the winter solstice, with the rebirth of the sun. The longest night marks the return of the sun. But that renewal doesn't start with momentum and, you know, heightened output and productivity. It starts with wintering, with rest, renewal, reflection, and release. Seeds don't grow in frozen ground. Spring equinox, really, on the other hand, in March, that's when the energy starts to pick up. That's when when we're looking at like agricultural calendars, that's when we are planting seeds. That's when all of the preparation that we've done leads to planting those seeds, leads to growth and forward progress, momentum, building. The energy is like picking up and then it peaks in the summer, right? And astrologically, the astrological calendar starts in March also with Aries season. And, you know, the archetypal energy of Aries is bold and confident, high energy. It's like this energy of like initiation. Even the Chinese New Year, it's like a blend of the lunar and solar cycles. So Chinese New Year isn't a fixed date. It takes place on the new moon between January and February. So, there's every other calendar that you can follow, tunes into some sort of natural cycle that has to do with like solar cycles, lunar cycles. January 1st, the Gregorian calendar is literally just an arbitrary date. And with it comes this like pressure for heightened productivity and output and, just like pushing our bodies, pushing our goals. And we're not meant to be doing that right now. It doesn't mean that you can't, have small pushes for sure. It's just an invitation to tune in. Like my kids are back to school and I definitely feel like a renewed sense of like wanting to just like get my life organized, get my calendar cleaned up, get everything, just sort of like in order so that as I feel the energy building in my body and around me, I can move forward in more of an organized way. So, it's not like we're just supposed to be resting, put your feet up, like rest, like sure, if that's what your body's calling for, then rest like that. But if you're not feeling the drive to like go to the gym every single day, we wonder why New Year's resolutions fail. It's because we're not supposed to be pushing our bodies in that way right now, biologically and energetically. If you feel it naturally, definitely honor it. But this is more just an acknowledgement that like, if you don't feel that right now, if you don't feel the energy behind these like massive pushes that we're told, should coincide with January, that's okay. It's just not the time for that. Maybe instead of setting like a New Year's resolution or a goal of going to the gym every single day, or, maybe it's just like moving your body every day. Maybe it's getting outside and taking a 10-minute walk. Maybe it's doing a short yoga flow at home. Maybe it's, going to the gym and getting that hard workout in, but maybe it's also about like tuning in and seeing if I'm going to move my body every day, can I first check in with my body and see what I have the energy for? Because maybe yesterday I had a really hard workout, and today I want to move, but I want to just go like, walk in nature and listen to the birds and the trees and, the wind. All of those things are so grounding and so rejuvenating, and they're just as beneficial as that like hard workout that's like pushing your body. It's just giving you more balance in, all of the different areas of your life, and, the things that your body needs. I think when it comes to goal setting and intention setting, I think that there are other times of year that really support like strong goal setting and intention setting a lot more. I think I've never understood this whole idea to like set strong goals for January. When I was still like working in the corporate world, I remember, having this expectation that like in, December, but then it would move to November because December's too busy with the holidays. And then November is still busy. Like we're still, gearing up for Thanksgiving and all the pressure that comes with all of these holidays, but like squeezing in smart goal setting in the middle of all of that and figuring out like, what am I going to want on the other side of this like month to month and a half of pure chaos? Like, how do I think I can build and grow? I have no clue. Like, I feel like I'm winding down at that point. Like, I don't have the capacity to think about gearing up. I'm just come out of this whole like energetic push through summer, and then fall starts, and talk about this in a minute, but in Virgo season in fall, that is like, it's like systems and habits and routines and stuff. So the energy is sort of like supportive of setting goals and hunkering down into work, harvesting all that you've planted. And so yeah, like come November, I'm like, I'm exhausted. And now I have to gear up for the holidays. And we, in our family, we buffer our holidays with kids' birthdays. So it's like the season that goes from like the very beginning of January to of like November to mid-January. And I'm like, I can't even fathom coming up with SMART goals that hold any kind of meaning. And on top of that, like, I just hate SMART goals. They don't feel intuitively aligned for me. They work for some people, they don't for me. I think we've talked about this here before, but I knew like something had to shift for me in the corporate world, and also just like in how I was setting goals when in a meeting where I was to present some of my SMART goals for the coming year. I was just like so frustrated with the whole process that I went in and like I had tossed everything that I had prepared, and I was like, this year I'm intentionally winging it. And it was my way of just being like, I'm going to do what's intuitively led. And I was like a contractor. I was able to, but I was just like frustrated and exhausted. And I think that's like the moment I broke up with the SMART goals forever. But even like the word of the year, I love setting an intention. I love having something to come back to sort of like anchor myself into for the year. But I think you have to do it with detachment, like with the ability to hold space for more than one thing, especially right now in January. Like, I feel like January is just more of a time for listening than like defining. And so while I do love the word of the year, I don't really use it in a way that it's like I'm going to pick a word of the year like right now and set my whole year around that. I usually find myself like hovering around a couple of words, and they're usually pretty different words. Like some of the words on my list this year are like build, play, and bloom. And I think like that gives me balance. I could do balance every year, right? But I think that having a few words gives me just sort of like this balance of intention. And as the year goes on, I might sort of hone in on one. And then I think I use it more almost in reflection then. Like I have a few words, I'm circling back on them. I'm, as the new moons come around and I'm revisiting my intentions, I'll revisit these 3 words. And if something feels more real, maybe I'll focus in on that for the month ahead. But I think that it's really important to sort of just like detach from rigid outcomes, because it means that like you're not creating space for whatever is flowing through you most naturally and intuitively to come to light. I think that goals and rigid intentions can be restrictive in a way if you're not practicing detachment with them at the same time. But, alternately, I think that there are times when a word of the year can be really helpful. I had a conversation with a very smart woman the other day who was telling me that, she's picking her word of the year. She does a word of the year instead of goal setting. And the word she's dancing around this year is stability. And she's been in this chapter of growth and creating and building and pushing. And she's just ready to reground and restabilize. And we were talking about how something like that doesn't mean that she can't create and grow as the year goes on. It doesn't mean that she can't later in the year decide to start something fresh and new altogether, but it's just a really good set point to be like, okay, I'm feeling the urge to grow. Is this aligned with my intention of like getting really grounded? Do I feel grounded enough to grow? Do I feel like I've, restabilized my life enough that I can support new growth? And maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no, but either way, it's just like that checkpoint to be able to say like, to know really, I think if it is a yes or a no. So I think all of these things, it's such a personal process. And I think, what I'm saying is like, again, just tune into your body, tune into what feels real for you, tune into what feels like your truth and what you're ready for. And if you're not ready to push and be productive and set goals or set intentions or pick a word, that's okay, because the timing, energetically, it's really not supportive of that right now. I vote that we take the time now to listen to our bodies, listen to our intuition, reflect, release what's no longer working, gather ideas, and then when spring rolls around at the spring equinox, we, set stronger intentions. If goals are your thing, set the goals then. You'll feel the energy and the momentum building around you. But for now, just tune in and listen. I think that March is a really great time to be setting goals and setting intentions, because the energy, you feel that momentum building. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that September can be a really good time for that too. Virgo season, again, most of this is from the Northern Hemisphere perspective, but like summer's over, we've had peak energy with the summer solstice, and at, as we wind down into the fall, where, Virgo season is routines and, just sort of like getting buttoned up about things. And so it's either, depending on when you like to set intentions, set goals, start anew, at the very least, it's a really great time to revisit the intentions and goals that you've set, and set new, habits or processes or structures in place to help you reach those goals. So, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's really just about reclaiming what feels real for each of us. And, we've been taught that January is like for output, and there's just so many of these scripts and rules that I think we've sort of adopted as our own truth. without checking in with ourselves first and being like, does that actually feel real in my body? Does that make sense for me? And so, maybe none of this feels real for you, but at the end of the day, it's just an invitation to tune into what does feel real. Like, just because it's January 1st doesn't mean that you have to do all of the things that, other people are doing or that, we've been taught our whole lives to do. Just because I'm saying, at the spring equinox that you should set your goals, then that maybe spring's a horrible time for you to set your goals. Maybe it's the time leading up to that. In my past life, I was in real estate, and spring market would just like pop up. It would pop up on you out of nowhere, and it would just get insanely busy. And so waiting until spring equinox might not make sense, because at that point, I might have already just been in this like really busy season. And so maybe tapping into some of the energy ahead of time, pushing a little bit harder, or, leaving space for both. I guess it would really just depend on what I was feeling at the time. But so I think I'm just saying that there are definitely different, all of our truths are different. All of our schedules, our lives, our energy, everything is different. But, for each of us, it's really just a matter of tuning into what makes the most sense for us. And if we're feeling the pressure from some outside, force that's, not within us, just take a minute and ask, why do I believe that I need to do this now? And giving ourselves permission to rest always, always, always is just so important. So happy wintering, happy recovering from the holiday season. If you have kids and they're back at school, I hope the transition back has been good. And I hope for both, they need the space from us just as much as we need the space from them. Just to settle into our own energy and our own routines and to grow and expand in different ways. So hopefully the transition back for everyone is going smoothly. And I'll be back actually in a few days. We have a new schedule coming up where I will be doing solo episodes every other week, and then right now an interview a week. I've been just really fortunate. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to connect with so many just brilliant minds, and I'm excited to share these episodes with you. So next week, I will be coming to you with some human design info. My guest is a woman who really reinvented herself. She's reinvented herself so many times. She just has this incredible story, incredible journey that takes her from living in, as she describes it, an Amish cult. And her path has led her to, she's really a leader in the human design space. She's launched this new tech tool that I'll post links in the episode. I've been using it and it's brilliant. So anyway, we'll be back in just a few days with this interview. All right. Bye, guys.